Beginning, the boy who cooked for stars. The twin suns of Borealis burned low on the horizon, painting the sky in molten gold. The air shimmered with heat and dust. Jalen Reese wiped the sweat from his brow as he tended to a small metal pot over a crackling campfire. He wasn't a soldier, nor a scientist, nor a hero. Just a cook, one of the last human survivors of the crash freighter Sol's Promise. For weeks, Jalen had survived by scavenging and cooking whatever edible roots and protein flora he could find. The alien jungle was beautiful but merciless. He stirred the mixture, a thick stew made from the blue tubers that tasted faintly like garlic and the chitting insect larvae he'd roasted earlier. It smelled awful, but it was food. Then he heard it, a soft whimpering sound. Jalen froze, his pulse racing. He'd learned the hard way that this planet's creatures were not to be trifled with. But the sound wasn't a growl or hiss. It was more like crying. He followed the noise through the ferns and vines until he stumbled into a small clearing where 3 reptilian creatures lay huddled together. Their scales shimmered faintly like molten gold, and their wings, though small, glowed faintly in the fading sunlight. They were children, dragon children, and they looked starved. Their ribs showed beneath their scales, their eyes dull with exhaustion. Jalen hesitated. Every instinct screamed at him to turn back. Dragons, even young ones, were dangerous. But something inside him, that quiet stubbornness that had kept him alive, refused to leave him like that. He returned to his campfire and poured half of his stew into a flat metal tray. Slowly, he approached the creatures again. "Easy there," he said softly, voice trembling. "You look hungry." They sniffed the air. One hissed, another whimpered again. Jalen crouched, lowering the tray. "It's okay. It's just food." After a tense silence, one of them crawled closer, sniffed, and began to eat. Within seconds, the others joined in, devouring the stew with frantic joy. Jalen chuckled softly, relief flooding through him. "Guess I made something edible after all." He stayed with them until nightfall. When he awoke the next morning, they were gone, but his campsite was untouched. A single golden scale shimmered beside the ashes of his fire. Middle, rumors in the sky. 3 days later, the sky above Borealis split open. A colossal ship, black as obsidian and shaped like a crescent moon, descended through clouds. Lightning danced across its hull. The roar of its engines shook the ground. Jalen ducked behind the remnants of his shelter as waves of dust and heat washed over him. Then came the sound, the rhythmic beating of wings. He peeked out. Thousands of dragons, enormous, gleaming creatures with wings like solar sails, filled the sky around the ship. "What the hell?" he whispered. A voice, deep and resonant, echoed through his mind. "Human, step forward." Jalen stumbled out, shielding his eyes. A figure descended from the ship, tall, regal, draped in flowing silver armor that shimmered with constellations. Her wings spanned wider than any he had seen, her eyes like burning suns. She was breathtaking, terrifying, divine, the Dragon Queen. Jalen fell to his knees, trembling. I didn't mean any harm. I'm just a castaway." The Queen's gaze fixed on him. "My children tell me otherwise." Behind her, the 3 small dragons, now full of energy, flew forward, squealing in delight when they saw him. One of them even landed beside him, nudging his arm. Jalen blinked in disbelief. "These are yours." The Queen's expression softened for a fraction of a second. "They are my youngest brood. When they vanished, I believed them dead, and yet they returned speaking of a human who fed them." He swallowed. "I just gave them food. They were starving." "And you fed them from your own stores," she said. "You gave without expectation. Few of your kind would." A pulse of light rippled from her as she extended a hand. "Come, you will not die here." Before Jalen could react, A wave of shimmering energy surrounded him, and in an instant he was aboard her ship. Middle, the palace of scales and stars. The Dragon Queen ship wasn't made of metal but of living crystal. It pulsed faintly, like it was breathing. Jalen followed her through hallways lined with glowing veins of light, each turn revealing wonders beyond imagination, floating gardens, starlight pools, and vast chambers echoing with song. Her throne room was carved from obsidian glass. The ceiling shimmered with real stars, projections of the galactic core. Why? Why bring me here? Jalen asked hesitantly. The Queen turned to him, her tone unreadable. Because you have done something sacred. You fed royal hatchlings, an act that binds you, by ancient law, to their lineage. Wait, what? In my culture, she said, stepping closer, those who nourish the young are recognized as part of their circle of creation. You are family. Jalen's stomach dropped. Family? I just made them stew. Her eyes glowed faintly. That is enough. For weeks, Jalen was kept within the palace, treated not as a prisoner, but as a strange, amusing guest. The dragonlings adored him. They followed him everywhere, demanding snacks, stories, and laughter. Slowly, he came to love them too. He began cooking again, not human food, but dishes adapted from local ingredients. Soon, the palace staff, massive draconic servants in humanoid form, gathered in order to taste the human meals. Even the Queen watched from her throne, hiding her curiosity behind a mask of authority. One evening, as Jalen cooked over a hovering flame, she approached silently. You find joy in this? She asked. He smiled. It reminds me of home, of being needed. For a moment, she said nothing. Then softly, you are needed. Their eyes met, and something stirred between them, something neither fully understood. Middle, whispers of rebellion. Time passed. Jalen learned more about the dragon's world, the empire that stretched across galaxies, the wars they waged against the cold void spawn that devoured stars. He also learned that the Queen ruled alone. Her mate had perished centuries ago, and her rule was challenged by warlords hungry for power. Rumors whispered through the palace that the Queen had grown distracted, softer, ever since the human had arrived. One night, Jalen found her in the Hall of Flames, staring at a vast mural depicting her ancestors. They don't respect kindness, she said quietly. They see mercy as weakness. Then they are blind, he replied. Mercy is what makes you worth following. She turned toward him, her gaze heavy with centuries of solitude. You speak as if you understand command. I don't, Jalen admitted, but I understand loneliness. Something shifted then. The Queen, the being who commanded legions and burned worlds, took a step closer. You have no wings, no power, no weapon, and yet you speak to me as an equal. Maybe because I don't see a queen, Jalen said softly. I see someone who cares more than she admits. The silence that followed was charged, an unspoken recognition. And that night, the stars outside seemed to burn brighter, ending the Queen's wrath and the human's choice. Months later, the rebellion came. A traitor warlord named Kaeldar rallied fleets against the Queen, claiming her human corruption weakened the empire. His armada surrounded the capital world, demanding her surrender. The Queen prepared for war. Jalen begged her to flee with her children, but she refused. A queen does not run from her duty. When the fighting began, the sky turned to fire. Planetary shields flickered as ships clashed like thunder. Jalen watched helplessly from the palace as explosions lit the horizon. Then, chaos. A direct hit breached the outer walls. He ran to the dragonlings' chambers, shielding them as debris fell. It's okay. Stay close to me. A massive tremor knocked him unconscious. When he awoke, the palace was silent, and the queen stood before him, her armor cracked, wings tattered, yet her eyes still blazing. "You live," she whispered, relief flooding her voice. He reached for her, dazed. "The children." "They are safe," she said, "because you kept them safe." The battle was over. Kael'thar's forces were defeated, but at a cost. As the Empire began to rebuild, Jalen approached the Queen one final time. "I need to go home," he said quietly. "My people might still be out there. I can't stay forever." Her expression hardened. "Home? You would leave after what you've done? After what we share?" "It's not about leaving you," he said. "It's about not forgetting who I am." For the first time, the Queen's composure cracked. "You fed my children. You healed my loneliness. And now you would abandon me." Her power fled. The room trembled. "You are bound by royal law. You belong to my lineage, to my world." Jalen stepped forward, eyes wet, then changed the law. Silence. The Queen's fury faded into sorrow. She turned away, voice breaking. "If I release you, the bond dissolves. You will remember nothing. Not me. Not them." He hesitated. "And if I stay?" "You will never walk beneath your own stars again." The decision tore him apart, but he finally whispered, "Then I'll take the pain of forgetting over the pain of losing myself." The Queen's eyes shimmered with tears of molten gold. She reached out, touching his forehead. "Goodbye, my heart of flame." A surge of light, and then darkness. Epilogue, the taste of something forgotten. Years later, a rescue ship found a lone man drifting in an escape pod near Borealis. He had no memory of how he got there, only the vague recollection of warmth, wings, and laughter. Back on Earth, Jalen opened a small restaurant, the Golden Scale Diner. One evening, as he cooked a strange recipe that came to him in a dream, a stew of blue tubers and roasted insects, he heard a child's laugh. He turned, but no one was there, only a faint glimmer of golden light drifting in the air, and a whisper in his mind. "You are still family." He smiled through tears. "Guess I made something edible after all."